All right, learning target 4 for unit 3, data and statistics. We're now going to use statistics to compare center and spread of two different data sets. So first we're just going to look at what the center and the spread and what we really mean by those things. We have some new vocabulary here, some new, some old. Measures of center would be mean, median, and mode. You guys have probably seen this before. You guys can pause the video and take notes. The mean is the sum of the data divided by the number of data items. It's often called the average. The median for an odd number of data set is that very middle number. So if you have like 13 data sets, there'd be 6 on this side, 6 on that side. That middle number would be the median. And then the mode is the most often. You guys have heard that. Outliers are values unusually far from the middle. So either extreme highs or extreme lows. They can have a really strong influence on the mean, but not on the median. Okay, and we're going to find out exactly how to calculate an outlier, and we'll do that later. So get down those notes, and we're going to move right into an example. We have a data set here showing the number of people who attended a movie theater over a period of 16 days. We're asked to find the measures of center. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I like to put them in order, okay? So I like to start with my lowest, so I'd have 10, and then I'm going to put these numbers in order lowest to highest. So, oops, and even before that, I have 7, 10, 7, looks like 14, 14 again, 20, 21, 21 again, 21 again, 23, 23, 26. Looks like next we have 30, 32, 38, 80, whoa, we jump up to 80, and 92. All right, so now that I have everything put together, and notice I skipped in that 35, I can find my measures of center. I like to start with the mode just because it's the easiest to find. We see we have 21, 21, 21. So obviously our most often used number is 21. Our median is going to be the middle number. Well, we have 16 points of data. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, between 8 and 23, because I have 8 on this side and I have 8 on this side, I need a very middle number here. So what I do is I take 21 plus 23 and divide by 2. So that would be 44 divided by 2. That would be 22. So my median is 22. My very middle number is 22. Even though it's not in the data set, that's my median. And then my final value here is to take all of these numbers and add them up. So if I go back here and I have all my numbers, and this is when I had forgotten 35. So plus 35, that's all my numbers. That adds up to 300. Oh, no, that doesn't. We're going to go back up here. I have all of my numbers, and I had forgotten 35. So here's my total. All right, here's my total. And then I need to take that and divide it, so 484 divided by, we have 16 numbers, so that would give me 30.25 as a mean. 30.25 is my mean. Now notice, that's a lot higher than my mode and my median, okay? So the theater manager wants to compare its attendance to that of other theaters in the area. Which measure of center is best to represent the data? Now, why is it better, or why should I use maybe my mode or my median instead of my mean here? Well, I'm thinking it's because of these two values. These two values Maybe these were opening night kind of things, but they really skew our data. They really say that our data is higher than it really is. So if we look at this chunk, I'm sure if we found the mean to this chunk, it would be much more, it would be closer to this 21, 22 area. So you have to be careful with mean because outliers can greatly affect the mean. And like I said before, we'll go over how to define if something is an outlier, but they can really screw things up. So you got to be careful. And that's why it's good to look at all three of these measures of center to really get a better look at the data. So we're going to move on to what's called a 5-number summary. Okay, we have a 5-number summary. There's 5 pieces of it. Obviously, 5-number summary. We have a minimum, a maximum, a median, first quartile, and third quartile. Okay, what those basically are, and I don't think you have a lot of room in your notes, but you can maybe write them down. The minimum is pretty straightforward. It's the minimum. The first quartile is basically the median or the middle of the bottom half. Okay, so the way to do this is to split it in half first. So what splits it in half is that median. The median is the middle of the data, right? The middle of the set. And then the first quartile, so if you think about it as quarters, first quartile is the median of the bottom half. So once you've split it, then that's the middle of the split, not included. So we have these 5 numbers. The middle number is the first quartile. In the same way, Q3, quartile 3, is the middle of the top half. So it's the middle of the top half. And then we have the maximum. Okay, and that's pretty straightforward again. So our steps here in doing that, and you can get these down, but we didn't have you explicitly write them, is order the data. When you have a data set, it's best to just get it in order, smallest to greatest. Then step 2 is to find the maximum and the minimums. That's pretty easy. Step 3 is to find the median. And step 4 is to find those quartiles. So you cut it in half, and then you cut the halves in half. Okay? So we'll look at that. But I do want you to get down, and maybe you can put some of that other notes in there. The inner quartile range is something we're going to talk about as well. The IQR is what we call it, is the difference between the first quartile and the third quartile. So basically all you do is take Q3 minus Q1 equals the inner quartile range. Okay. Whereas the range is the range of the whole data set, the maximum minus the minimum. The inner quartile range is just Q3 minus Q1. So it's that inner quartile, that middle 50% of the data. Okay, so that's a 5-number summary. We'll work on a 5-number summary here. It kind of looks like this is the same data we had at the beginning. So I'm going to take our list here. I've already separated, or I've already ordered this. So I'm going to order it right here again. So we have our list. I'll get rid of those. We're going to find the 5-number summary. Well, first off, we need the minimum. Minimum's easy. It's going to be 7. Once you've ordered it, it's really easy to find. The maximum is going to be that 92. Okay. We've already found that the median was 22. Remember, we found it right here in the middle of 21 and 23. Now, when the median is not actually in the data set, then that's where you cut it, okay? If the median was in the data set, if our 22 was here, we wouldn't count it when doing our 2 sides. So now we have a group of 8 and a group of 8. So again, we're going to have 4 on each side. So my first quartile is going to be right here with 4 and 4. So my first quartile is going to be 14 plus 20 divided by 2. 14 plus 20 gives me 34 divided by 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15, 16, 17 would be my first quartile. And my third quartile is going to be right here in the middle of 32 and 35. Okay, so right in the middle of 32 and 35, we have to do 32 plus 35 is going to be, or divided by 2, that's going to be 67 divided by 2. That's going to be 33.5, right? 33.5 is my third quartile. So I have my 5-number summary, okay? Now we had talked before about the fact that these two numbers are huge, okay? These two numbers are huge. So what I want to do is I want to find the inner quartile range, and that's going to help me get my outliers, okay? So to find outliers, and you can put this somewhere on that sheet, an outlier formula is 1.5 times the inner quartile range, and that is either added to the quartile 3 or subtracted from quartile 1. And that will give us where our outliers are. Okay, so let's find that. We're going to take 1.5 times my inner quartile range would be 33.5 minus 17. So that's going to be 16.5. So that gives me, if I take that times 1.5, gives me 24.75. And what that is that took my inner quartile range, and that middle 50% is what that inner quartile range is, and it gave it some leeway. So it took it 1.5 of that, so 1.5 of those. And now we're going to add it to the Q3 and subtract it from Q1, and then anything outside of that range, we're saying that's a okay range. We gave ourselves a little leeway on each side, but anything outside of those boundaries are outliers. So we're going to take 24.5, or 75, excuse me, plus our Q3, 33.5. That's going to give us a boundary cutoff to the north, or to the top of 58.25. So now we know that 58.25, we know anything greater than that are outliers. Okay, so that means yes, 80 and 92 are outliers. Okay, we're going to take that same 24.75, but we're going to subtract it from 17. So 17 minus that 24.75, and I'm using my calculator so that I can not make mistakes, is a negative 7.75, okay? So anything less than that would be outliers, okay? And we obviously don't have any, because we don't have any negative numbers. You can't have negative people going there, okay? So we're good there. But we do have two outliers there, which is smart of us to realize that we shouldn't use our mean when we are making, or when we were talking about the measures of center. Okay, so that's a little bit about all these different statistics, and we'll go over this more in class. If you do have any questions, make sure you can ask them in the question pod below, so that I can kind of know where we're at coming into it. But before class, make sure you do this, because a lot of people are slacking on their before class problems. Find the measures of center, any outliers, and the 5-number summary of the following data set. So try this out.